In the summer of 2009, the Holloway family's mailbox in rural Missouri began to overflow flyers, bills, a birthday card. Neighbors figured they'd just gone on vacation without saying much. Their house sat neat and quiet with the curtains drawn, a car missing from the driveway. By fall, people assumed they'd moved, maybe for work, maybe just a fresh start. Nothing about it felt urgent. Families drift apart all the time. But there was something odd. Their dog, Rusty, was found tied to a tree at the edge of a county park, miles away, looking thin but alive. No one could explain that. And then, after a while, folks stopped asking. Life went on. 10 years passed. Then, in 2019, a new sheriff's deputy reviewing cold files noticed something buried in the details, something everyone else had missed. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. Tom Holloway was the kind of man people nodded to at the hardware store, even if they didn't know him well. At 47, he'd worked at the same auto repair shop in town for nearly 2 decades. Steady hands, quiet voice, always home by 6. His wife, Linda, taught 2nd grade at the local elementary school, warm, dependable, the type to bring cupcakes to PTA meetings. Their teenage son, Jacob, played trumpet in the school band and mowed lawns on weekends to save for his first car. They weren't flashy, just good, solid folks. They lived in a white, 2-story farmhouse just outside Jefferson County where the grass grew a little too fast and the porch light always worked. Every Sunday, Tom grilled burgers while Rusty chased squirrels in the yard. It was the kind of life people remember fondly, not because it was exciting, but because it was theirs. No one expected that one quiet Monday morning they'd be gone. It started with a missed day at work. On Monday, Tom didn't show up at the garage. No call, no text. His boss, Rick, figured maybe he was sick, though Tom was never the type to skip without notice. By Tuesday, Linda missed school too, no substitute arranged, no word from her. The principal tried calling, then texting, then calling again. Nothing. Jacob didn't turn up at band practice that afternoon either, which was odd because he'd been preparing for the spring concert for weeks. A neighbor went to check on them that evening. The front door was locked, curtains drawn, porch light off. Mail was already piling up. Rusty was gone, too. The gate to the backyard was open. No one panicked, not yet. But something didn't sit right. It wasn't just the silence. It was how clean everything looked, like someone had made sure to leave things, just so. By the end of the week, concern turned into quiet confusion. Rick drove out to the Holloway place himself on Friday afternoon. The house looked untouched, no broken windows, no signs of struggle. A stack of newspapers sat untouched on the porch. Through the front window, he could see a half-finished jigsaw puzzle on the dining table, a coffee mug beside it. Inside, everything seemed paused. Linda's sister, who lived in St. Louis, called the sheriff's office when she couldn't get through after multiple tries. She said Tom and Linda weren't the type to just take off, not without telling anyone. And Jacob? He'd just been accepted to a community college nearby. He was excited. A deputy did a welfare check that Sunday. Found nothing unusual, no forced entry, no notes, no mess. The family car was gone, but Tom's tools and Linda's school bag were still inside. They weren't just missing. They'd vanished in the middle of a normal week with no goodbye. Nearly a year later, in 2010, most folks had moved on. The official line was that the Holloways had left voluntarily, maybe financial troubles, maybe family issues. But Linda's sister, Carol, couldn't let it go. She made the tower drive from St. Louis every few months, checking in with the sheriff's office, walking the property, hoping for anything. That fall, while sorting through Linda's old emails, she'd remembered the login. Carol found something odd. A message sent 3 days before the disappearance, labeled draft never sent. It mentioned someone coming by again and the phrase, "I don't want Jacob involved this time." Carol brought the email to the sheriff's office. A new deputy, Mark Devlin, recently transferred from Kansas City, took interest. He wasn't convinced by the runaway theory and asked to reopen the case quietly at first. It wasn't much, but it was the first thread in years. And once he started pulling, things began to unravel. Deputy Devlin requested access to archived phone records, something that hadn't been done in the original review. What he found raised more questions than answers. In the 3 weeks leading up to their disappearance, Tom Holloway had received over a dozen calls from a disposable cell phone registered under a fake name. Each call came late at night, between 1 and 3 a.m. Even stranger, the tower pings placed that burner phone just outside Jefferson County, close enough to reach the Holloway's home in minutes. Devlin traced a few partial leads, but the trail was cold. No fingerprints, no financial records, no witnesses. Just silence. When Carol heard about the calls, her hands trembled. Tom wasn't the kind of man to get involved in anything secretive. And late-night calls? That wasn't like him. She began to wonder, had he been protecting them from something? Or someone? And if so, why didn't he ask for help? In early 2019, nearly a decade after the Holloways vanished, a construction crew digging near an old service road on the outskirts of Jefferson County hit something unexpected: an abandoned storm shelter buried deeper than code required. Inside, they found remnants of furniture, canned food long expired, and a small, rusted toolbox with initials carved into the lid, TH. Devlin was called in. Among the debris, they uncovered a dusty camcorder wrapped in plastic. It had no battery, but the memory card was intact. Forensics recovered partial footage, just a few shaky seconds, but what they saw froze everyone in the room. It was Jacob, clearly older than 16, sitting in the dim shelter. He looked tired, but alive. "If someone finds this," he said, "please, we had no choice." Devlin knew he couldn't keep this quiet anymore. But if the family had survived, why had they hidden? And more importantly, were they still out there? The discovery triggered a full-scale investigation. But with the case now public, media swarmed the town, twisting facts and flooding the sheriff's office with false tips. Deputy Devlin, under pressure from superiors, was told to stand down. His quiet inquiry had stirred too much noise. He was devastated. For months, he'd followed every quiet lead, every cold trail, only to be pushed aside when the truth felt within reach. Then came the blow that nearly broke him. A forensic review of the camcorder revealed fingerprints, none matching Tom, Linda, or Jacob. Someone else had been in that shelter. Someone who likely knew they were hiding or was keeping them there. Devlin sat alone in his car that night, parked outside the Holloway house, now falling into ruin. The wind rattled loose shutters. He felt defeated. Until his phone buzzed. A blocked number. One sentence in a voice that made his heart race. "You're looking in the wrong place." The call led Devlin to a property line dispute filed in 2010, barely noticed at the time, over a remote cabin registered under a shell company. With quiet persistence and a court order, he got access. What he found wasn't dramatic: no captives, no criminals, but a trail of small, human choices. Receipts, medication bottles, even handwriting on an old calendar matched Linda's. The Holloways had lived there, off-grid, for years. A neighbor recalled a quiet family who kept to themselves, homeschooled a teenage boy, and left abruptly one night in 2016 after a man came by asking questions. Devlin didn't find the family. But now he understood they weren't running from justice. They were running from someone who once knew too much about Tom's past. Something he tried to shield his wife and son from. He closed the file with a quiet note: presumed alive. Left by choice. Protected each other. Sometimes the truth isn't a headline. It's the silence people leave behind. Months later, Deputy Devlin transferred to a smaller precinct 2 counties over. He never spoke publicly about the Holloway case again. But sometimes, while driving home past quiet farmhouses and long gravel roads, he thought of that final message: "We had no choice." He wondered what it meant exactly. What line had Tom crossed before vanishing? What fear had followed them all those years? Devlin kept a photocopy of Jacob's face from the video on his desk, not as evidence, but as a reminder. Some people don't disappear to be found. They disappear to survive. The house on Route 6 still stands, weathered and empty. Locals say they sometimes see lights flicker inside, though power was cut long ago. If your family's safety meant leaving everything behind, your job, your name, your life, could you do it? And if someone you loved vanished without a word, would you ever stop searching?